Hello, everybody, and welcome to Kev's Movie Corner. This week we're going back to the AFI list, and we're talking about Intolerance. Spoilers! This movie was released in 1916, so 108 years ago. Is that right? Yeah, 108 years ago. It is not, well, here's the IMDb short little snippet on here, which explains it pretty well, actually. 4 historical tales depict the ongoing human struggle against prejudice and inhumanity. So it's 4, vignettes in a movie. Yeah, it's 4 vignettes in a movie that all take place at different times with different people. So think, no, I was going to say think Pulp Fiction, but that's all kind of still intertwined with each other. They really don't have anything to do with each other. It is we're just going to start with this. It's a long flippin' movie. And to me, it was extremely boring. And if you like it, great. That's fine. I see it on here. It's called a classic. It's called an epic film. I don't know who came up with that, but more power to them. It's not a me thing. And it is a silent film, which is, silent films aren't, I don't care. Like, I enjoyed, we watched City Lights, which is Charlie Chaplin, watched The General, which is Buster Keaton, and I enjoyed both of those. Both of those are shorter. They're, I think, they are paced, they're comedies, so it's not as, slapstick comedy is a little easier to watch than like a drama like this. There's a couple big war scenes and big fight scenes and stuff, but for the most part, it's a long drawn out thing. There's a lot of slates, text slates in the middle of it during the movie. So original runtime for this is 210 minutes, which is 3.5 hours. Now, from what I could find, most of the surviving cuts are about 3 hours and 15 minutes, which is the one that I ended up watching, one of those. When I started it, it said this was being shown in the original color and the full version in original color that it would have been seen in when it debuted in 1916. So it's very kind of that sepia, like brownish color. There's some parts where it's more blue instead. So it's very, it says that it's accurate color. I don't know that, this very much seemed to me, it felt more like what I think of when I think of an old movie versus, like I said, City Lights or The General. Because it seems like everybody's moving at a high rate of speed, which I looked into that, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. It seems like everybody's moving at an extremely high rate of speed. It judders a lot. Like, you can watch it, and it kind of looks like it's shaking. And it just looks old, which it is old. It's 108 years old. So, I get it. It's old. But anyway, so the story, there's 4 different stories, like I said. It's done in an interlude or a prelude and 2 acts. So it's set up almost like a play. So you have the four different stories on here are you have ancient Babylon, and all of them have the same demonstration of how intolerance of people persists over the course of 2,500 years or whatever. So you have ancient Babylon, where you have the fall of Babylon to Persia, and intolerance exists after that as they fight over the two rival gods. You have biblical Judea, which is like when Jesus Christ was born. So intolerance eventually leads to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. And that one's that of the four, you see the least of that one. That one's the shortest of the four. You have the French Renaissance, which you have a massacre. They massacre a bunch of people, and you have basically like the American, like the Industrial Revolution, when capitalism and workers kind of clash, and it ends up hurting basically the lower class for the most part, and causes people to turn to crime and things like that to make it. So this movie, that's basically they're kind of all cut together. So you jump back and forth a lot. They're so far apart and different looking that it's pretty easy to tell which section you're in when you're watching it, but it does just all of a sudden jump back and forth a lot, which usually there's like a text slate, a big, like story slate in between each one, but it's a lot going on. You have a ton of people. I saw in here that at one point, where did it say? Here we go. There was more than 3,000 extras on this film. And at one point, the payroll reportedly got up to $12,000 a day for extras. Now, that's not a lot of money today, but when you consider that this was made in 1916 and the whole budget was $386,000 basically, $12,000 a day is a lot of flipping money. And I get this movie, the sets are huge. The set for Babylon, it says, had 300-foot tall walls. It was a massive undertaking. 300,000 feet of film were shot. So, obviously a massive undertaking to do this. Total cost of production was $250,000 for one scene. That's crazy. So, it's just amazing. Like that's just a ton of money. So what? Hold on. Total cost of producing Intolerance was reportedly to be close to $2 million, including $250,000 for the Belshazzar feast scene alone. So I don't know where they're coming up with this, because I've got a couple different numbers that kind of contradict each other. But anyway, obviously it's a big ordeal. It was a big undertaking. It was a massive film to do at the time. I gotta be honest, I got bored and I didn't pay really close attention to a lot of this. I played on my phone some, which is not normal for me. I did leave it on. I did keep I did keep paying attention to it every once in a while. I did never turn it off. But this movie kind of bored me. I was surprised. Like I said, the runtime says that it's 3 hours and 16 minutes when I started it. Now, it actually ended at just over 2 hours. And I was a little surprised by that because I went to look and see how much longer there was left in the movie because, boredom. And at that point, it said that like a minute and a half was left. And I was kind of like, well, what's going on? And then it stopped. It ended. I figured just something was wrong. It ended. I, stopped it, went back, tried to watch it again because it said 3 hours and 16 minutes. So I tried to watch it again and it stopped. It started over. So, and it said that it was 2 hours long. So the only thing I could come up with was I did a little bit of looking into this. And what I could find was that a lot of films back in this time were filmed at a slower frame rate. So 16 to 18 frames a second instead of 24, which was the average, or which is the average. Which it said a lot of those were due to people hand cranking it, not having a timed system. So, people doing this and counting in their head to see how fast it was. So it could vary. And also they would try to, for funnier scenes or more intense scenes, they would try to speed it up to make it look like more stuff was going on. It was a little bit more hectic. The only thing I could come up with, though, is that whenever it was put into whatever system, whenever it was remastered or redone, it was run at a 24 frames per second rate. And that's just what it did. Because at that, I also did the math on that. You would be running it at 16 to 18 frames, moving it up to 24. You're running it about 1.5 times. So if you're listening to podcasts at 1.5 times, it's the same thing. Which would put it right at about 2 hours. 3 hours and 15 minutes to right about 2 hours. So that is what I could come up with. I don't know if that's exactly what happened, but that's the only explanation I could come up with when I was doing this. So I was very happy that it ended at 2 hours. I was waiting for it to go 3, but was very glad I didn't have to keep going for 3. But yeah, that's the movie. It's, again, it jumps around a lot. It's kind of long. To me, it's kind of boring. If you like a silent film, I mean, you could try watching it. I would recommend City Lights or The General, because I think they're more interesting to watch. I think they're comedies, which is, a little more my speed with something like this, especially when I have to actually pay attention to what's going on. A comedy, you don't necessarily have to pay as close attention to what's going on as something like this. With no audio, being able to listen to what people are saying, you have to very much pay attention to what's going on and kind of read what's going on to understand a little bit about what's there. So I think if you're going to watch a silent film, I would recommend a comedy. But, if you want to do this, more power to you. I watched it for free on Amazon Prime. So it's on there. You don't have to pay for it. Eat your heart out. But I think that is it for this week. What are we watching next week? Oh, West Side Story. Okay. West Side Story. 1961. Never seen it. I like musicals. Don't know why I haven't seen it, but I haven't. So we're going to watch that. If you liked this, subscribe. Let me know what you thought of Intolerance. If you've seen it before, if you think that I'm a moron for not liking it, great. Tell me below. You do you. Not going to change my opinion, but you do you. But anyway, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and I will talk to you guys next week.